Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a very popular video, which is the truth about being a real estate agent and what they don't tell you about this industry. And I can promise you this, it's nothing like our favorite TV shows that I know we all love to binge watch. That being said, this is one of my most successful and popular videos that I ever filmed a few years ago, which I believe has over 350,000 views at this point, which is insane for me to wrap my own head around. I'll pop it up on the screen if you want to watch the original. But that being said, again, it was filmed a couple years ago. And I feel like I have grown so much in those last few years. I have a new establishment in my career. I have new experiences and I have a new perspective. I think a new and improved perspective about being in this industry. And now being, a trainer and a coach to other agents as well, I really have a new take about all of these common questions that you guys have about what it's like to be an agent. So with that being said, I wanted to revisit all of these questions that you guys have. I have them on my computer right here, and I want to give you a new and improved, truthful and bluntly honest response to your questions about being in the industry. So without further ado, let's hop into them. All right, first question is, how do I become an agent? Now, to be honest, becoming an agent is probably one of the easiest barriers of entry of any business that you could really get into. All you have to do is take 3 college-level academic classes specific to real estate. I have a link in the description box below for the one that I use to get my certification as well, and a 40% discount. So go ahead and use that if you are interested in getting started. But you just need to get your certificates. You'll then submit those to the DRE, which is the Department of Real Estate. And from there, you will fill out an application, do some fingerprinting, send in a couple dues, and that's pretty much it. You pick a test date, pass your state exam, and from there, you are pretty much golden and ready to go. The only thing you'll have to do from there between doing that and your first deal is you do need to hang your license with a brokerage in order to legally use it, which leads me now into the second question is, how do I pick the right brokerage? And I think that is such a personal decision. Especially in this time of the market when we are having discussions of recessions and, the real estate market is down, there's less transactions. Avoid the boutique brokerages. Avoid the brokerages that are less established, don't have as much capital to fund money into resources for their agents to get through this dry spell of the market. One of the best activities that I can recommend for you guys to do is Google in your local neighborhood, who are the top producing agents, who is well known in that area. Look at the brokerages that they're affiliated with and then consider interviewing with all of them. Now, you're going to realize very quickly every brokerage has a different energy, a different vibe to it, and so does every office. And as an example, I work with Coldwell Banker, and yet multiple Coldwell Banker offices all have a very, very, very different dynamic across each specific office. So I would say pick a brokerage, but also look at the office environments. Pick ones where people are kind and want to help you and support you, not, a negative, competitive working environment. It's not going to help you in the long run. On that note though, I work with Coldwell Banker myself. This is the #1 brokerage I signed with in the beginning, and I have stuck with it ever since. I have been recruited by a lot of major brokerages such as Compass and a few others, and I have chose to turn them down once kind of evaluating their resources versus the resources that I have here as an agent. So it's a personal decision, but for me, I'm super happy with CB. I would just look at who's really producing in your local market. Question number 3, which is one of the most popular ones that I get, and that is, do I join a team or do I go solo? So as some of you might know, there are 2 different directions you can take when you come into this business. Now, when you go solo, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're on your own. You're completely independent. When you're out going with a buyer or trying to pitch for a listing, you are representing yourself and yourself only, along with the brokerage that's backing you. Now, going solo, it's a harder start for people, especially if you don't have a pre-established network to really lean into. That being said, it is extremely rewarding, and 100% of the commission goes back to you. When you work with a team, on the other hand, typically, now every team has a different dynamic, a different structure in how they run their systems, but typically there is a head leader and then the agents below that help with them. At the end of the day, you're not building your own brand. So if you are really determined to kind of build your own brand, your own business, I wouldn't go the team route. Now with the team, you're building that leader's brand. You are kind of they're they're number one, they're the prime focus, and you're kind of like the back end, the back people that are helping support that person's business. The downsides of that is that you do have to share and split your commissions every single time, and it's usually a pretty large cut. I would say it's safe to say 50-50, maybe 40-60, 60-40 if you bring in that deal, but typically they're going to take a majority or at least a 0.5% cut. But on the plus side, if you have no pre-established market and you are brand new and need a lot of guidance and you just have nowhere to go, or you have no idea on how to get things started, you can lean into the team aspect, use their prior sales history as a way to give yourself credibility. And when you go on to these listing appointments, you'll bring the head leader, which is going to give you a better chance in securing that deal versus if you're going out on your first time, alone, and without experience. For reference, I'm solo. I've been 100% solo from the very beginning. I intend to stay solo. From time to time, I do partner with other agents in my office if an opportunity presents itself that I think I need someone to help back me in that situation. But overall, I've really enjoyed being solo, but it is harder than going the team route. What resources do you recommend to pass the exam? For being completely honest, the real estate certification course is not going to teach you anything about what's really actually on the state exam. The state exam is very tricky, it's very particular, and it's very vocabulary heavy. And I will say, though, that there's a history of using the same structure of sentences and questions and swapping out the context. The person that I used to pass the real estate exam is my prep agent. I bought his 7-day crash course, leaned into that really heavy for the week leading up to my exam, and I passed on my first try. So I will link him down below. I think he's a really great resource, and he has a ton of free YouTube videos as well. I've promoted him many, many times. He has no idea who I am, but that just shows how genuinely I appreciated the content that he was putting out there, and I think he'll help get you guys prepped for the exam. Next question asks, can I pursue real estate if I don't come from money? I think there is this, this misconception that everyone in real estate is rich. Everyone in real estate comes from rich families, and that's not the case. A lot of us have humble beginnings. Like for myself, I got started when I was 21 years old. I had absolutely no experience. I didn't have anyone supporting me. I was fully financially independent, and it was a rough start. It really was, but I've made it. I'm doing great. I can support myself. And, I've had multiple 6-figure years. And so that just shows you that it's just going to make you work harder for what you want in the end. Now, you're going to see people all the time in this business who come from, rich families, or parents who are developers themselves, or parents that are extremely well connected with the community. That's going to be a boost for those people getting into the business. But don't let that deter you. If you know this is what you want to pursue, you 1000% can achieve that. You just need to work a little bit harder, but I promise you, you're going to feel so much more rewarded in the end versus the guy that got handed their first 5 deals. This is a great question. It says, what kind of prospecting do I recommend? Now, as most of you should know, and if you don't, you're learning right now, real estate really isn't a real estate business. And I know it sounds weird to say that. And of course, we transact real estate. I mean, that is what we do. But at the end of the day, this truly, really is a lead generation business. This is a business of us on prospecting. How do we land our clients? How do we land our deals, essentially? And my most hated term that is thrown around the industry that's used all the time, keeping your pipeline full. Hate that term. It's the truth, but I hate it. So types of prospecting. There are so many forms of prospecting. The most popular are open houses, networking events, door knocking, cold calling, FSBOs, for sale by owners, expired listings, social media. What else is there? I would say those are the main 7. If more come to me, I'll mention them later. But those are the main 7. But you will learn very quickly that every top producing agent, every successful agent has gotten started and become successful in a different way, which I think is really a comforting thing for you to know, is that you can pick what aligns with you the most as an agent. Now, for me, for example, I went heavily into the social media route. If you're watching this, this just kind of shows you how far, I've come with social media, and it has brought business for me. I've also leaned heavily into expired listings. So expired listings are listings that were previously listed for sale on the market with another agent. They didn't have success. It did not sell. So they come off and now they're marked as expired. And I, hunt them down, essentially distribute marketing materials and all of this stuff. But then there's people that I know who are amazing salespeople, cold call all day, door knock all day. You need to find what's kind of genuine to who you are and who you want to be as an agent. Personally, I'm not a salesy person, and I can't fathom the idea of, cold calling and bombarding people with sales tactics. It's just not who I am, but I know people are successful doing it. Another avenue that I've really leaned heavily into is networking, in-person networking consistently across specific groups. I'm seeing the same faces repetitively time and time again, and following them on LinkedIn. And so they're consistently seeing my social media marketing to stay top of mind. So there's so many different avenues. Try a few, but I would say stick with one and really stick with it. Don't hop between a new one every 2 to 3 months, and then another one every 2 to 3 months, because if you had just stuck with one or two during that whole entire time frame, you would have so much more success by that point near the end had you not been, jumping around and trying all these different things. What is the biggest challenge with real estate? I think the biggest challenge, at least in my own personal experience, is the lack of stability. And you can have very high highs and you can have very low lows. You can have periods where you're extremely busy, and you can have periods where you're kind of wondering to yourself, like, okay, when is my next deal going to come? Where is my next deal going to come? So it's a big mental game. It's a big mental challenge. And you really have to genuinely know, why did I come into this business? What is driving me to success? What am I reaching for? What do I want that's going to keep me going during these periods of, where you're feeling a little self-doubt, which is extremely normal and it happens to everybody. And, you have to know that you're going to be in this for the long run, because what you did to put in the work 2 years ago could show for itself 5 years later. You just never know in this business. So stick to it, stay strong and positive, and take time to take care of yourself, because it can get very easy to be hard on yourself in this business, and you just need to stay positive. How do you make meaningful connections and convert them into sales? So I think this goes back to familiarity and repetitively seeing someone. When your repetition builds familiarity builds trust, and trust is ultimately what will convert into a sale. You definitely cannot expect to meet someone tomorrow and they're like, yeah, let's work together, and then they close on something 30 days later. It's happened, don't get me wrong. It is, but it is rare. We need to nurture our leads. We need to support them and sometimes stick with them for years before they actually even end up making a move. So stay present, do your follow-up, be familiar, and repetitively make contact. And in time, they will hopefully make that connection with you in order to make a sale. What is the best method to market on a low budget? Great question, but I think also you need to ask yourself, what is the best way to prospect? One of the biggest mistakes that I made in my first year, and even my second year of coming into the business, was skipping the prospecting route because I didn't want to do it. I thought it was uncomfortable and I just didn't know if it was going to work. Joke's on me, because if I had started doing that a year earlier, I would be even farther than I am today. And I hopped over to the marketing route. You need to learn how to hunt before you learn how to farm. The wonderful thing about prospecting is you don't really need any money. All you really need is yourself, to put yourself out there. And a lot of things you can make in the office for free, or maybe you'll spend a few $100 on marketing pieces here and there to put into your prospecting packages, whatever it might be. But when it comes to marketing, number one way to do that, I would think, is social media. And just lean from a place of wanting to educate, wanting to truly help people, and just put out your face into the world, showing people that you're an expert. So I'd say that's the cheapest way to market. There are a lot of traditional, expensive ways to market that you'll hear, like farming, geographical farming. That is one prospecting form I did forget to mention earlier. Geographical farming, so where you pick a specific neighborhood of about 500 homes and you just work that area for years, door knock it, drop off presents, send flyers, postcards, very traditional form of prospecting. But if you don't have the money for it, go the social media route and just focus more on prospecting until you can build a big enough foundation for you to then start really heading into the marketing realm. How much does it cost to become a real estate agent? So I did a whole video on this recently, actually, breaking down literally every single expense that I did in my first year and getting started. And I pulled receipts and everything. So I will link that down below, and I'll find a way if I can put it up on one of these corners of the screens. And I will say, though, that is specific to California, but the expected expenses, I would say, should be relatively similar if you're in another state, but at least it'll give you a good idea about what kind of things you'll be expected to pay for. Do I get a base pay? Do I get a salary and benefits? No, you don't. Unfortunately, you do not get a salary. You do not get health insurance. You do not get any form of insurance, except for business insurance. Sometimes that's included into your monthly fees as an agent. But yeah, I think you need to realize you're in sales. Sales is a commission-based industry. So you eat what you kill. How to build your business in a shifting market. That's a tough one because, we are in a shifting market right now. And I think the number one thing that agents are experiencing right now is learning how to shift with the shifting market. And so when you're coming into this business, though, if you're prospecting and you're putting yourself out there and you're having real time face-to-face conversations with other people, they might not move now and they might not move for 6 months, but when the tide turns, when interest rates drop and there's more movement back again in the market, you're going to be at the forefront of, agents that have pre-established connections for them to then lean into when the market turns. So my number one advice is prospect, make sure you're making meaningful connections, and stay consistent with it and don't give up, because when the market does turn, you are going to be really seeing, everything pay off for you in terms of hard work. Doesn't matter what car you drive. Oh, this one means so much to me because when I first started in the business, I drove this old clunky car and it was just, I was really embarrassed about it. It was a family car. I was brand new to working in any industry. I had no money saved up. And I remember I would park down the street, walk around the corner. I'm like, oh, I accidentally parked down the street. And then I realized that, I ended up doing 6 figures in the year that I was driving that car. And my clients really didn't care. So don't focus about the car. I mean, great, that's exciting when you can work up to getting a new car that you feel more confident in, but don't let that deter you. Please don't just go and buy a new car when you really can't afford it just so you can feel like you fit in. It doesn't work like that. So just keep working hard. You can park a little bit farther down the street if it really bugs you, but you're going to be fine. You don't need something fancy. And the very last question, which I'm going to tackle today, which I think actually also really resonates with me, is college. And is it required? And on top of that, is it really worth it? If you don't know my own personal story, I was at UCLA and I dropped out of UCLA to pursue real estate. That was one of the biggest risks I think I've ever taken as an adult. And, I ran with it. And I ultimately did end up going back and finishing my degree since I was so close to finishing. But I don't think I've ever used my degree. I've never been asked where I went to college. I've never asked for credentials. Nobody really seems to care. But I will say some of your biggest connections can come from networking in college. If you are in a business fraternity, if you're really involved with some form of a community and you all graduate, but you still have that base connection even 10 years post-grad, that's a large market you could tap into for business and really make your money's worth off of it. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you want me to do a part 2, I've done these before, but if you want me to do a new and improved, updated part 2, comment down below questions that you have about becoming an agent and I will definitely dive into them. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you can. I'm hoping to reach 20,000 by the end of the year, a little personal goal of mine. Have an amazing day, and I will see you in my next video.